Okay, we got another VintCo Vintage racer here. We got Charlie with CR Racing. He specializes in CZs, and he just came off the track after racing. He's only been resting here for a few minutes after his last race on 125 1972. He's also got a 72 250 as well. So tell us a little bit about what you do and restoring these bikes. And it sounds like you do it for a living, so you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's right. I've been doing it full-time for 25 years when vintage racing first started. And I don't really do restorations, but I do racers. So for vintage racing, the guys that want to run the bikes, they're the guys I support because I don't like the bikes to go into some man cave and sit there forever. You know, we like to ride them. So I offer everything you see, the gas tank, seats, engine rebuilding, all that, just to keep the guys on the track.
And do you make these tanks yourselves?
Yeah, these are made by me. We sell about 30 a year of this model of tank. They're pretty popular.
It's amazing looking. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. There's a lot of guys racing vintage.
And with the seat, are you at the same height as the stock ones back then, or are you a little different?
No, what we did is the stock models, the seat was low down here, and you don't have this ergonomic flow. So this was our design here, about 20 years ago, and this is what everybody likes.
And yeah, it does. It definitely looks. These are one of the most kind of, I would say, more modern looking of the vintage bikes. They look cool, especially with the aluminum tank. They look really cool.
Yeah, they're pretty neat, and we even do stuff like this whole frame is a duplicate in chromoly. The original frames were mild steel, and so and they're fine. I've raced for years with those, and you're still good. But it's nice to have the options. If you wreck your frame, you can get a new one. Okay. So frames, triple clamps, the bars. Actually, Renthal makes these bars now. They didn't used to. And
what do they call this bend?
They call that bend a vintage high, and they took the CZ as the model for that bar because it's so popular.
And what about these clamps? Who made these for you?
Well, you've heard of Applied Racing. John Duffy of Applied Racing has been making these for me for years. They're extremely light and strong, and they're in the style of the original design, which is nice. And
and what kind of suspension improvements have you done to the forks?
Well, these are actually a fork kit I came out with some suspension buddies of mine back in the 90s. They came up with it, and it's very good. We still use it today, and I have no problem with that even at my age. It goes fine. And then the shocks are really nice. Those are actually No Lean, which is in Victorville here. Yeah. And this is Clark Jones of the Jones family. Those guys are great. The Jones family's great. They do these shocks for the vintage bikes, especially because they're interested in vintage as well.
And then what about the exhaust pipe on this thing?
These are my design. Actually, we had some pipe designers and come up with this design about 20 years ago, and we like it, so we just keep using it.
That's really cool. And I noticed one of the things I noticed right away on both these bikes is they have huge rear sprockets. So that's kind of you said that was like stock size back then.
Well, there's something about that that's mechanical. The bigger your gearbox is, and the more bigger in diameter your gears are, the bigger the sprockets have to be. So they wanted, and this is probably why CZ won something like 10 world championships, was because their bikes didn't break down. And so many bikes, the gears would break. So they've got really beefy gearboxes, and therefore beefy sprockets. So to get the ratio low enough, you've got to have humongous sprockets. But this one over here is almost as big. They're both almost the same size.
That's so cool. And now, when you're restoring these things, it sounds like you have basically found everything you can find that tends to break. Is there anything that you still have a hard time dealing with or finding? No. Cases or anything like that?
No, long ago when we ran out of certain parts like pistons or rod kits, we simply had them made. Everybody, like in the 90s, McGrath and Carmichael were running the two-strokes. And so this piston in this bike, all the bikes are virtually the same type of piston. Okay. So we've gone to the ProLite pistons long ago. The rods ran out 50 years ago, and so I went ahead and had runs the rods done.
Very cool.
So
you've got, if somebody has a CZ they want to restore only for a racer, no show bikes. Have you had anybody lie to you and then like want to make one. Yeah, you don't like that.
Well, if somebody has a really cool bike that they want to start it and rip around on and have it on display as well, there's nothing wrong with that. So, if they want the bike to start, first kick, haul ass, and all that, you really have to rebuild them properly.
Yeah. Well, it looks. They both look amazing, and it is so cool that, like, when I saw you and you were who was the guy you were battling with out there? You guys were.
It was Mike Corgan.
Yeah.
Oh, also Gary Jones.
Yeah.
Gary Jones.
Yeah, Gary doesn't get a race the next race. His bike broke.
He didn't ride. Yeah. No, we were. Gary and I were like rubbing elbows around the track. It was kind of fun. I've known him for years. He's a great guy. And then also Corgan was really dicing it with me the whole time.
And this is awesome. So really cool vintage VintCo racer bikes for you this time around, and two really cool pictures of the 250 as well. Oh, on that 250, what was cool on that 250, you told me since Yamaha had a reed cage, you were able to add a reed cage to the 250 and kind of be legal in a lot of the classes.
Yeah, that's right. Vintage class, sportsman vintage class is everything that's 74 and older. And when you have a company like Yamaha that was so innovative, and they started putting reed valves on the bikes back in 1970 or so, then that opened the window for vintage legal reed valves. In fact, when I was a kid, this 250 right here, the bikes, you'd buy them off the showroom floor in 1972, and most shops would put a reed valve on it because they couldn't keep up with the Yamahas. So they started to go, hey, wait a minute, we need to do that too. So when vintage had to make a decision and decide, what do we do? Do we allow reed valves around pumper carbs? No, we only allow reed valves because that was sort of standard in the day.
That is so cool. So just amazing looking bikes, and it's cool you can get a modern V-Force reed cage on there with that kind of modern technology.
Yeah, the only reason that we didn't start with the V-Force, we started with DH, and then when those became unavailable, we had to try to find stuff that was available. Yeah. These reed cages here are just a copy of the old DH ones from the day, and then we're using the Moto Tassinari cage because they're so trouble-free. Yeah, they're just trouble-free. You don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, we run them on our modern bikes, and it's the same thing.
Everybody wants spare reeds, don't need them. They're amazing.
That's great. Well, it's been awesome talking to you. Hopefully you enjoy this look at these CZs, and catch you out next time.